what's going on, everybody? David here, back again with another video. Today is story time. I'm going to tell you guys a story on how I ended up hitting the comic book mother lode and owning something and having something in my hands that I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would ever have. So yeah, it all started honestly with I've been buying comic books, looking for comic books lately online. Some just random books that maybe I've missed over the years, some random stories like collections and things like that. And sometimes the algorithm, gets a hold of that, and it starts populating everywhere else. So I have like comic book related ads on Instagram and Facebook and all sorts of everywhere else, right? And stuff like that. So I just scroll through. I'm like, I'm not interested. I'm trying to search for just randomness sometimes. One of those ads caught my eye, and it was just like maybe like a picture, and it had like a couple of, I would say maybe about like 6 to 8 books. And I was like, well, those look pretty interesting. There were like some old Captain America books and things like that. Nothing special, nothing crazy. And I noticed that the guy was somewhat in my area. So I was like, okay, let me reach out and see, what he might want for these. And reached out, and we kind of started communicating, and he basically said, he's like, I don't even know what these are. Like, I'm just trying to get rid of them. He's like, I'm willing to do trades. I was like, okay, so what do you like? And he was like, I like action figures. I'm like, oh, okay, like what kind of action figures? I have plenty of those. And he's like, well, I collect like Spawn. I was like, I have plenty of Spawn action figures that honestly I was just looking to kind of get rid of. So I was like, okay, well, that'll work. Cool. I was like, I'll meet you, on this and this day, and I'll bring some action figures that I have, and I have some loose ones too. And he was like, okay, cool, sounds good. And he said to meet him at a storage place. I was like, okay. I don't normally do that kind of thing, mind you, because I'm a little bit on the paranoid side, so I don't really do meetups like that. But I took a chance. I was like, it's not that far, and the book seemed pretty interesting enough, at least. And I go there, and I have the action figures. I even took some little extras. Extra action figures and some stuff just in case. I was like, well, if he wants, some extra stuff, then if he's interested in some of this other stuff, then, that could go too. And so we got to talking, and I was like, yeah, so I got some of the stuff in my trunk, if you want to check it out. And he was like, oh man, these are cool. He's like, awesome. How much do you want from them? I was like, well, I mean, I don't know. I was like, we can see, what we do. And he was like, okay, cool. He's like, well, let me go get the comics. I was like, okay. And he comes back with the little bunch of comics, and I started looking through them. I'm like, well, okay, all right, I'll take this one. And then he's like, I think I have a little bit more. I was like, okay, cool. So I was putting some aside out of the few that he had, and then he brought another bunch over. And I was looking through. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I took another couple of them out, and I was like, that's kind of all I want. And I was like, we can kind of figure this out, if you want to buy some of the figures or something. He's like, whoa. He's like, all right, well, he's like, hold on. And he goes back into his storage and then comes out with a big long box of comics. And he's like, well, I have these. He's like, I'm looking to try to get rid of them. So, you're more than welcome to like look through them and take what you want. I'm like, okay, cool. So I start looking through. I'm like, okay. And I see some like older comics in here, right? In the long box. And I'm like, wow, okay. And I literally said it out loud. I was like, wow, these are pretty cool. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I bought them off some guy, some older man. And, he's like, he was trying to get rid of them because he didn't have no more room in his garage, and this and yeah, he gave me this whole other story. He's like, I bought him really cheap. He's like, and I don't know anything about comics. He's like, I just bought them because, you know, maybe I could, you know, sell them after a while. He's like, but they've been sitting in my storage unit for, like, probably a good, like, 2 years. I was like, oh, wow. I was like, for real? He's like, yeah. He's like, so just look through them. He's like, yeah, you take what you want, whatever. I was like, all right. So, started looking through. I started picking stuff out. I was like, and then after a bit, about like 5 minutes, I started seeing some pretty good stuff. And I was like, I'm probably going to be here for a pretty long time, man. I was like looking through all this stuff, seeing what I want. He's like, well, just, you know, like, he's like, he's like, I'm going to take everything that you brought. And I was like, well, I was like, also, I was like, I did bring, you know, a couple of extras if you want to take a look at these too. I was like, and honestly, you can just take them. I was like, you can have these extra figures or whatever, just as a, you know, just me being cool, because I was like, I was trying to get rid of them anyway. You can just have them, even if you don't, you know, want any of the stuff. He's like, no. I was like, I want the stuff. I was like, all right, cool. So he ended up just kind of saying, well, you know what? And he's like, just take them. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, just take them. And he's like, I'm trying to get rid of them. They're sitting there. He's like, just take it all. He's like, and, you know, and that's it. He's like, and if you come up with any other figures, and if I find any other comics, then, you know, then I'll let you know. I was like, okay, cool. And then, so I took the whole box, because I didn't have the time to look through each and every, you know, single book, but I liked what I saw. And I get home, and I start really going through everything. There was some pretty cool stuff in here. And I'm going to show you just a tad bit of what I got from this guy. And then I ended up going back and getting more later that he ended up, you know, coming up with. But this is just a small glimpse. And then on top of that, there was a big surprise that I just found out about yesterday that threw me for a loop. Anyway, so first up is here's one book, is Marvel 2-in-1, The Thing and Deathlock. This is Marvel 2-in-1 number 54. It's an older book, as you can see. It's seen better days, not in the best condition, but this is the first appearance of Titania, which she was in the She-Hulk Disney Plus show. She's a good, you know, villainous character. So that's pretty cool. And then Deathlock that's an, again, older character. An older Wonder Woman book right here, which is crazy. And this one, I believe these kind of books go for, I don't want to say a pretty penny, but a decent amount, just because of like the bondage, the ropes and all that stuff. There's a whole story about that, but that's pretty cool. I don't see that very often. This guy had a bunch of Daredevil. So here goes another really cool one right here. Yeah, and then there were some like real campy, you know, weird kind of books that I was like, okay, this is pretty neat, even if it's not worth anything. I haven't looked up some of these, but some of these I did, and they're worth, you know, a decent amount. Nothing like that's gonna go through the roof or anything, but pretty cool. And this is one of those goofy ones. It's a super older Superman book against Father Nature, which is very odd. But I thought that was kind of neat. And if you look at it though, look at the spine. It is like almost pristine. And that was the one thing that tripped me out about these, was that a lot of these were in really great condition. I can't grade comics very well, but I mean, just by looking at this, I mean, it has a slight little ticks in the spine, maybe here and there, but nothing crazy. I mean, these are pretty high grade, I would think anyway. This one was pretty cool. That threw me for a loop. This is the origin of Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe comic right here. Pretty cool. This one again, I started tripping out about the Daredevil comics that he had because I wasn't really a big Daredevil collector growing up, but I knew of all these covers, and that's what kind of caught my eye initially. So this is a cool one. This is not in the best condition, but not the worst either. And this is the Born Again. Is part of the Born Again story, and I remember this iconic cover, and it's also gonna be the title to the new Disney Plus show that they're gonna have. So that's pretty neat. This is I know this one, the Resurrection of Elektra, and this one's in pretty good condition. Like, I don't think there's any sort of, there's one little spine tick or two, but I mean, really, really nice. And then we have this iconic cover, Frank Miller cover for Daredevil. Really, really cool as well. This one does have a couple of little spine ticks here and there, but insane. Some old Ghost Rider stuff. This one has a comic on both sides. So, and I think if I remember correctly, this is like, one of them is like the first appearance of, oh my god, Xanthos? I think it is, or is, oh my god, I can't remember the main entity. But yeah, I mean, this is crazy. Ghost Rider against Johnny Blaze. So yeah, I mean, this, again, I was floored. I was literally going through them and freaking out, sitting on the floor going through these. This is another Daredevil comic, the first appearance of Stick, which is like their mentor, their trainer, Elektra and Daredevil's trainer. So that's insane as well. And this one's in pretty great condition. The first appearance of Kingpin in a Daredevil comic. I think this is the first time that they call him by his name, or his name is in there, Wilson Fisk. They drop his name. That's pretty amazing. An iconic cover here. I believe this is the issue after the death of Elektra. Right there. I think that's Frank Miller art, if I remember correctly. It looks like it is. An awesome Bullseye and Black Widow book here. Another Daredevil. Anything with Bullseye, you typically goes for a pretty good amount. Bullseye or Black Widow. The first fight and meeting of Kingpin and Daredevil, which is insane. And this one has a couple of little ticks to the spine, but nothing too insane. Another Ghost Rider book, which is really cool. Just the idea of like these, and they're not like super old. This one's, I think these are like from 1979, which is insane to me. And then there's like some Disney books in there too, some Looney Tunes. I got this one. It's not in the greatest condition, but I got this one just because it looked cool. An Elmer Fudd book. You know, I pulled this one out, and I this one was one of the first ones that convinced me that I was like, okay, I think I might, want to take a lot of these books. And then the guy was like, all right, we'll just take them all. Cool Wolverine cover that I liked. I don't think this one's anything too special, but in pristine condition. The first meeting of Power Man and Iron Fist, the Heroes for Hire, which is cool. This is another, I can't remember the significance of this book, but Dr. Octopus is on the cover and in the story. Green Lantern Emerald Dawn, number 1 and 2, which is really cool. Nightcrawler, 1 and 2, which I completely forgot that Nightcrawler had his limited series. Some Walt Disney books. I think they're just like kind of cool, like keepsakes. I don't think that they're worth anything that crazy, but like this one has the Aristokittens in it. So I think that's pretty neat. The art is pretty cool as well. The Thing. This is number 1 in the 4-issue limited series. Thing versus the Thing. And then number 1 and number 2, The Adventures of the Thing. This one is pretty cool because I love the artwork right here. This is I believe while the Mutant Massacre was going, Sabretooth going up against Daredevil. And then here goes Daredevil and Claw. Ulysses Claw. And this one has seen better days. But I had to pull this one out to show you guys because this one's a what if Loki had found the Hammer of Thor. Love the artwork here. Fantastic. But it is kind of, beat up. But really, really cool. And then this is where it started getting really good. There was some Ninja Turtle stuff in here. And these are like graphic novels that collect like the first couple of issues of the older the 80s Ninja Turtles books, and they're colorized. And these are first prints, mind you. So this is book 1. And then there was book 2, which was pretty cool. I was like, I don't think I had ever seen these before. And then there was no book 3, but then there ended up being a book 4 in there, which again, thought was really, really neat. It's pretty cool to just, again, have stuff like this. This is so cool. Some of this is worth stuff. Some of this is not. But the significance of having some of these books in my hand is kind of crazy. And then this is towards the end. This popped up. And this is the first appearance of Lady Deathstrike with her adamantium nails. So that's pretty interesting because not that long ago I got the first appearance of Yuriko, which again later on she turns into Lady Deathstrike. This popped up in there, and this is in like pristine condition. This is Uncanny X-Men, was it 201? And this is they're fighting. Cyclops and Storm are fighting for the leader, or to be who's going to be the leader of the X-Men. And also in this book, Nathan Summers is born, which is Cable. So baby Cable is in this book. I believe this is the right here, the Uncanny X-Men 213. This is, I believe, the first or second fight with Sabretooth and Wolverine. And again, if you look very closely, in pristine condition, like probably the one of the best conditions that I've seen in an older book like this. And this is a 1986 book. The other Nate Summers one, I think I don't see the year on it, but I want to say it has to be around that time because it's 201 and 213, and then this one's 205. So yeah, I think all three of them are 1986. That is insane. So what gets even crazier, and hopefully you guys are still with me here. What gets even crazier is that I was like already kind of freaking out at how cool this was. This guy just let this stuff go for like a bunch of spawns. A bunch of Spawn figures. Not even like anything substantial. Yeah, so that's it was already insane to me for that. And then I started kind of going through because I was overwhelmed with all this. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of this stuff. There's a whole bunch more that I haven't even gone through yet. I started going through some of this because I was like, okay, I need to catalog some of this at least, or at least write down the significance of what book is what and things like that, just for my peace of mind. So I know, what's what. And it was a Daredevil book, not this one, but another one. I can't even remember which one it was. It wasn't anything like like super appealing. And I noticed that when I was moving it around, like I could see something else behind it, right? So I was like, okay. And I hadn't opened it. Pretty much the majority of these are all sealed. They kept closed. I kept them closed. I haven't had the time to really go through them all, so they're all like still taped up. I just kind of like did an overview of the outside to see what condition they were in. And one of them, like I said, had something behind it. So I was like, okay, I got to open this one up, see. Because then, if there's another book behind there, then I want to rebag it. I pulled out another book that was behind a Daredevil book. And as I'm pulling it out, for one, it feels different. And I'm not seeing anything just yet. I'm seeing the bottom part of the book because it was like one of these where they did it upside down for some reason. So I'm pulling it out and then I keep going and I see something familiar. And I'm like, no. So I pull out all the way. My hands started to shake because I just could not believe what I was seeing. And this was behind a random Daredevil book in a long box that has been sitting in somebody's storage unit for probably over 2 years. I quickly had to put this in another bag and board. And this was in there. X-Men number 25. This is featuring the original X-Men. I believe this book is from 1966. And this was sitting behind a random Daredevil book. This is featuring the menace of El Tigre. Now, this might not be like the biggest eye catcher in the world as far as like, significance goes. Like El Tigre, I think this villain was like a one-off or something. Like, doesn't really make an impact or anything like that. But the fact that I have the 25th issue of Uncanny X-Men in my hands, like, freaked me the heck out. I could not believe it with my own eyes. I quickly, like literally, my hand was doing this. And I couldn't get it to stop. And I quickly ran to go get a bag and board. And I carefully, very carefully, put it in there. And I even put boards, like the white, comic book boards, these, in between the cover and the back end of it to give it some support. And yeah, like, that's as far as I went. I was too freaked out. I did not want to open it up and start looking through it. Yeah. So this book in perfect, pristine condition. I had to look it up, obviously. I've seen it go for like $300, $400. This isn't in the best condition. This isn't like mint or near mint or anything like that. But if you look at it, it's not bad for it being a book from the 60s. Like, everything is pretty, like, crisp. It could be that maybe it's been pressed before. Maybe. Or maybe it's just been sitting there, just behind a random Daredevil book for years and years and years and years in somebody's garage, and then it went into somebody's storage unit. I don't know. I couldn't wrap my head around it, and I still can't. I actually have in my hands and own an original copy of X-Men, which like 10-year-old me would be freaking out more so than I am right now. Yeah, I don't know if you guys had to guess a grade just by kind of looking real quickly at it, what would you give it? I'll tell you my grade. I think I would probably look at it, and if I'm being generous, maybe a 4 or a 3.5, something like that. But man, and then I told my wife about it. She's like, "Oh, that's cool." I was like, "No, you don't understand." This is probably one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. Talking to a random guy for random comics and ended up with X-Men number 25. I can't put two and two together as to how, why. Like, I still don't know. But this is the coolest thing in the world to me, and I don't know what to do with this at this point. I've never had anything like graded professionally or nothing like that, so I don't even know if it would be worth it. But this is definitely something that is gonna stay with me. And essentially, I got it for like, I mean, even just all this stuff is just worth it in general. And then to add this into the mix for like a medium-sized box of Spawn toys. And I did feel bad a little bit afterwards, because that's just, I don't know. I think something was telling me like, oh, you did that guy wrong. He did tell me himself. He was like, I don't know what these are. Like, I don't care. I don't have time. I'm just trying to get rid of them. So he said it himself, but I just couldn't let it go. I ended up contacting him again, and I gave him a bit of cash on the back end, just as a cool thank you, and just for him being a cool guy and just letting me just take him like that. And yeah, and that was that. So that's my story. And this literally, again, I found this X-Men book just the other day as I was trying to catalog some of this stuff. I quickly started looking through more of these things. As far as I could tell, there was nothing else. But you better believe if there is, I'll report back immediately. But like, yeah, so that's the story, and I'm still in disbelief. Let me know what you guys thought of this story. I mean, how crazy is that? Has anything like this ever happened to you guys before? Like, what's one of the coolest things that you've ever come across that's like kind of fell in your lap? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me and checking out this video. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you dug it or found it informative in any way. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well, because I will be coming back with more videos as always. And with all that being said, we'll catch you next time.